Hello and welcome to the next part in the OA nutrition series. In this video I'm going to cover the last one of the macronutrients. We've obviously covered protein and carbs already. So today we're going to cover the subject of fat and just go into what you need to know about it without getting overly technical. So the first thing to really cover is kind of the history in terms of the way fat's been perceived. Now, it used to be, especially in maybe the 80s and the 90s, perceived as the bad guy when it came to diet, in terms of the effects on health and also obesity. And obviously that's not so much the case now, and we seem to have a new guy, and that's obviously sugar. So if you've not seen the video about carbs and also the subject of sugar, I recommend watching that too, because there's a problem over here, is that really people are ending up kind of muddying the waters and focusing on the wrong things, because there isn't any single bad guy when it comes to this. And in fact, the obesity epidemic as it is, the stats are very clear on this. And the fact is that people these days are moving a lot less, and they're also eating more. Actually, they're not eating a huge amount more, but they are moving a lot less. So it really, it really isn't such a massive mystery why there is an obesity epidemic, and it's certainly, this is all it boils down to, this equation over here. So, okay, so we understand that, we don't need to be fearful of fat, we do need it, and especially for the absorption of certain vitamins, these being A, D, E, and K, and these vitamins are vital to our health and our function. So, we need fat in the diet, but there is an issue, and that is mainly that it's very, very easy to overconsume fat. And from the point of view of obesity and training goals, we need to be mindful of this, because 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories, and protein and carbs both contain 4, so that is over twice as many calories per gram. So we need to be mindful of it, because it's quite easy to overeat fat. It doesn't tend to take up much space. If you think about things like oils, butter, and cheese, very delicious, moorish foods, but they're not particularly large or take up a lot of space. And if you're thinking about your protein sources, you might have heard me saying that the majority of your protein should come from lean sources. For that reason, you can compare like a chicken breast with a juicy steak. Look at the difference in terms of calories, and that's because of the fat content. But when you eat a chicken breast or a steak, you're not necessarily going to notice the difference. So that's why you have to be mindful of it. So in terms of different types of fats, you've no doubt heard of monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and saturated fats, and that could become a little bit confusing, in terms of thinking, what do I need to eat of how much of each type do I need to eat. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, you don't really need to sweat this too much. And the reason I say that is because, if you're watching this video, you're hopefully, making an attempt to improve your health and fitness. So if you are, what goes hand in hand with that is, if you are engaging in exercise on a regular basis, whether that be in the gym and also getting out and about and walking, making sure you're active, you're eating plenty of fruit and veg, you're getting sufficient protein, and most of that is coming from lean sources, and you're getting out in the fresh air and you're getting daylight, for that vitamin D as well. If you're doing all of that stuff, you don't really need to, get overly concerned about this. Now, that said, there are obviously artificial fats, manufactured, industrial oils, trans fat, you've probably heard of that. These are the things that tend to be contained within, very obviously processed foods like cheap pastries and cakes and biscuits. So that type of stuff, it's not great. you want to mostly avoid it, but obviously, you can eat a little bit, but just eat it in moderation. Assuming you're doing that, you're kind of okay. You don't need to sweat this too much. In terms of, looking after your weight and fat loss, really it just boils down to having this awareness of how much you're consuming because of that 9 calories per gram. Okay, that wraps that up. If you have any questions or feedback, you can email me at wolfpack@operation-alpha.com. Cheers.